CBS News senior national security analyst Fran Townsend was Homeland Security and Counterterrorism Advisor for President George W. Bush. Fran, good morning. So glad you're here since you've been on the front lines before and know a lot of the data. Let's just show this graphic about where we are in terms of whether this is a crisis or not. It peaked in 2000 at 1.6 million, and it has steadily declined to the lowest number ever in more than 45 years in terms of apprehensions at the border. So where is the crisis?
So, look, the stories that the president tells, the anecdotes are horrifying, right? And they appeal to people's sense of fear and crisis. But the numbers belie that there isn't a real crisis, right? Some of this has been sort of steady state. Yes, some of the people who enter this country illegally commit horrific crimes. That's not new. There is a role for a border barrier, but it's a role as part of a larger strategy. You'll recall, Norah, when we were in Washington, in the Bush administration, we argued for comprehensive immigration reform, and a barrier was part of a larger strategy. And that's what's lost here, right? There's no talk about a larger strategy. There's talk about building a wall. But there's all sorts of components. You need more medical attention. You need more detention facilities. You need more Border Patrol agents and law enforcement. This is one piece of a larger strategy.
So we are facing an opioid epidemic in this country. We are facing a heroin epidemic. It is the majority of it, the president is right, coming from Mexico and the South. But the truth is that the drugs are actually coming through legal points of entry.
Correctly. That's right.
Why can't we strengthen that at the legal points of entry? That should be a focus.
And this is what I'm saying. There needs to be a larger, comprehensive strategy to address the problem, of which a physical barrier is one small piece.
Fran, let me ask you this. You used to order the threats for the president, looking at the wide landscape of things the president has to worry about. Given the emergency that has been created here, all those stories we just heard, the pain that's happening in people's lives as a result of the decisions here, where would this rank on the list of threats the president has to worry about and put his time, attention, and emergency energy towards?
Not high on my list, John, right? I mean, look at the rising crisis of anti-Semitism and domestic terrorism in this country. That would be much higher on my list, but we're not talking about that. Look at the opioid epidemic that Norah mentions. I mean, there's a bunch of things. There are foreign policy crises that I'd put higher on the list, whether that's Russia, China, the threats from China, international terrorism, ISIS, Syria. I mean, I have a whole long list, but this is not at the top.
Are you concerned from a security standpoint at the consequences falling out from this government shutdown, particularly at a legal port of entry, which is the airport?
Absolutely. Bianna, you know, look, the stories that we've heard of workers who were affected is tragic, right, on a human level and an individual level. But again, from a national security perspective, you've got TSA workers, many of whom are hourly wage earners who can't buy groceries, can't pay their mortgage. And you worry, we've heard stories about them calling in sick. I'll give you another example. So those who protect the president have monthly requirements to go to the firing range, training, right? Firearms training.
Right.
The training, that's the first thing to go on a shutdown because it's non-essential. So how do we feel about him being protected?
And all the people who are making the decisions are still getting paid. That's what I think
Congress.
about. Yeah, all the people that are making it are getting paid.
Very frustrating.
Fran Townsend, important context. Thank you again, as always.